The year is 2004. Mark Zuckerberg launched Facebook, NASA landed on Mars, the Nintendo DS came out, and Shrek 2 was released. But above all of these, except for Shrek, Tony Hawk and Bam Margera were out competing against each other in the 6th installment of the Tony Hawk's video game franchise. This was a big one for me when it came out. I was a young, impressionable mind, the likes of Viva La Bam, Wild Boys, and others were essentially everywhere, so seeing Bam Margera being used as a marketing tool for Tony Hawk's Underground 2 really had me excited to give it a go. Today, we'll be revisiting Underground 2 in its entirety to see how it holds up in today's world, just like we did with American Wasteland and Underground 1. Wink wink. Welcome to a complete retrospective and review of Tony Hawk's Underground 2. Developed by Neversoft, published by Activision, initially released on October 4th, 2004 for the PS2, Xbox, GameCube, PC, and Game Boy Advance, with a re-release dropping down the line for the PSP titled Tony Hawk's Underground 2 Remix. Tony Hawk's Underground 2 is generally considered a fan favorite in the franchise, and while specific sales figures aren't readily available, Underground 2 further solidified the Tony Hawk's franchise as top dog in the extreme sports gaming market. The story picks up where the first Underground leaves off. We're skating our hometown of New Jersey when we're kidnapped by two masked men in a black van. We wake up in a room filled with other skaters, masks still on and a chainsaw going. Is this Saul or Tony Hawk? This intro has been implanted into my brain for the last 20 years. Like, whenever I think about this game, I think about this chainsaw scene for some reason.
Butt nuggets?
Real funny,
What
guys.
is this?
Real funny.
What's happening, fellas? In case you're wondering why Bam and I invited you here tonight, let us enlighten you.
World Destruction Tour. Around the world sick as hell skating competition that Tony and I threw together and you, Jagoffs, are gonna compete in.
The idea at this point is for Bam and Tony to pick one by one from this lineup of skaters, like playing a game of pickup basketball, but instead we're starting a competition. This is already off to a pace that surpasses that of the first game, and this one just gets wilder. Like Tony himself said on MTV's Making the Game, the first game was used to establish your character going from nothing to a professional skater, allowing the second installment to loosen the reins a little and get wacky. This competition, known as the World Destruction Tour, translates over into the gameplay cleanly, with each challenge completed yielding points for whichever team completes it. The overarching goal of the game to be the team with the most points. This is a fun mechanic, but unsurprisingly, it doesn't matter if you bat for the lowest amount of points per level to advance the story, which is 500, or you're a completionist going for the full 1,000 points in each level. The story advances all the same. We end up on Team Tony, so that's our corner in this proverbial boxing ring. When beginning a level, you choose which pro you'd like to join you. Between your character, the pro skater from your team, the level's special character, and the level's secret character, there are plenty of goals and content to sift through. I would say that the Wild Boys Jackass style influence is definitely something that's slightly forced throughout, but looking beyond that, and it's fairly easy to, this is a pretty solid iteration of a Tony Hawk story. If you're craving more, you can hop into classic mode where you're met with 14 different levels. Again, this is the classic Tony Hawk experience from Pro Skater 1 through 3. You have 2 minutes on the clock, a list of challenges to complete, and generally a solid environment to complete them in. It's a mix of Underground 2's levels and classic levels from previous games. Switching back to the story mode, in which Underground 2 features 8 levels. Those being the training level warehouse based in New Jersey if you want to count that one, as well as Boston, Massachusetts, Barcelona, Spain, Berlin, Germany, Bondi Beach, Sydney, Australia, New Orleans, Louisiana, and Skatopia. Speaking of Skatopia, its design really reminds me of the Skate Ranch. Like, I think this is what the Skate Ranch was supposed to be before they were able to do it. Overall, I think Underground 2's level design is good throughout, it's fluid, but like any game, I'd say there are better levels than others. Personally, my favorites are Boston, Barcelona, New Orleans, and Skatopia. I do like the atmosphere of Bondi Beach as well, but for the most part, Berlin is forgettable to me. Completing story mode at 100% unlocks a group of pedestrian skaters for you to play as, along with a short skate movie called Pro Bales 2. In regard to gameplay and just the overall feel, the game really plays similarly to the first Underground, only introducing a small handful of features, additions, or mechanics. These include the addition of that classic mode we just discussed, as well as the Nada Spin, being able to modify aerial tricks using flips and rolls, the addition of spray painting walls, and the freak out mechanic. The Nada Spin, created by Nadas Kupas, boss wasn't even initially created to be a trick. It was created as a time killer for him and his friends. You see, it's a trick in which you jump up onto something like a fire hydrant or a weather vane and see how many times you could spin around. Him and his friends would do that just to see who could get the most spins. It was just a time killer. Well, it gained traction and ended up in Underground 2 spinning street skating in the right direction. According to the wiki, the freakout mechanic was added to simulate real-life player emotions after bailing. This feature gives players a chance to gain extra points for the next combo, refilling the special bar. It would go on to be included in American Wasteland, American Skateland, and Tony Hawk's Proving Ground. The subtle additions between Underground 1 and 2 are much less drastic than the changes between Underground 2 and American Wasteland. I find this to be a positive overall, although I did get used to running up walls in American Wasteland and found myself trying it more than I care to admit here in Underground 2 since I played the games out of order. Skating feels good, it feels responsive and like the first Underground did, so no complaints there. Instead of the vehicles working like they did in the first Underground where they were incredibly forced, they are a little more integrated now. Paulie has his wheelchair, Steve-O rides a mechanical bull, Jesse James has his motorized scooter thing and also gives you a motorized skateboard later, etc, etc. All of these have a unique set of tricks that just feel more natural than that first poor iteration of vehicles. One thing I do miss from the first Underground is the ability to quickly access challenges from the menu in the story. Like, you could still look at them, you could still view them, but you can't fast travel to them like you could before. And I know that some challenge locations are secret and you're supposed to find them instead of being able to easily access them through fast travel, but these could have just been grayed out so you wouldn't be able to select them. If you're feeling creative, you can hop into the creative modes section where you can express your creativity through creating a skater, creating a park, creating a graphic for when you're tagging stuff, creating a goal, or creating a trick. There are a good amount of ways to play this game without actually skating. The soundtrack consists of 53 songs between the genres of punk, hip-hop, and rock, or other. Bands or artists like Jimmy Eat World, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Johnny Cash, Disturbed, Aesop Rock, and the Sugar Hill Gang, upon many others. By comparison, this game has over 20 less songs than the first Underground game, which is a little disappointing, but truthfully, this is a pretty memorable soundtrack to me. I remember as a child playing Barcelona, listening to Ring of Fire, and having that kind of be one of my first experiences with that song. It's kind of cool. So overall, I would say that the story is original and more wacky than the first installment, although the Jackass vibe is forced at points. The gameplay is fun and similar to the first installment, only adding a small handful of new features and mechanics, none of which bog the game down and all of which kinda just bring it up. There's a solid amount of content in here for you to pass your time, and the soundtrack is pretty well balanced. This is a fantastic installment in the Tony Hawk's franchise, and some would say that it's the golden age. What are your thoughts on Tony Hawk's Underground 2? Love it? Hate it? Let's talk about it down in the comments. Interested in my thoughts on the first Underground or American Wasteland? Click here. Thanks for watching.